So what you can see from this list of tips is that the theme here is that your mind is your greatest resource. Hey, this is KB. I'm a technologist, thought leader, and self-published author. I've been publishing ebooks, print books, audio, video, and other content online since 2015. I stumbled quite a bit, tried many different types of content, marketing strategies, software tools, and social media streams. Now I'm here to help you learn from my mistakes and find inspiration along the way. We'll take a journey together to leverage your content, dive into practical tips, and test out actionable strategies that move you from posts to profit. This is the Self-Pub Empire Podcast. Welcome back to the Self-Pub Empire Podcast. Today, my friend, I want to talk to you about a book. It's not just any book. In a world where over 1 million books are published annually in the United States alone, standing out as a self-published author requires not just creativity, but strategic mindset, really. The book, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, can help you. I've read it. It is old, but despite being first published in 1937, it holds an unparalleled insights for authors or anybody aspiring to create a book, achieve something, create buzz around their books, or anything else that they want to get to and get done. Today, it still resonates today with over 100 million copies sold worldwide. I think it's even more than that. I think that's just an estimate at this point. That book is considered really the granddaddy of all self-help books. I'm going to go over the tips from the book that I resonate with the most. I've read the book numerous times myself and even recently published a boiled down basic summary book about it, which you can find on Amazon.com. If you take a look for that, Summary of Think and Grow Rich, Boiled Down Basics. You can search for Boiled Down Basics. You can also go to selfpubempire.com/BDB, and you'll get to the page where we've got our Boiled Down Basics summaries that we've put out so far. And that's another topic I'll talk to you about, creating summary books and sometimes low content books. These are interesting topics that I'll cover in future podcasts. But for now, summary should get you where you need to go. The Think and Grow Rich itself can be quite a thick book. So I hope you check out my summary. And of course, we'll also link to it in the show notes. The history of the book is a little bit shrouded with some conflicting stories, really about Napoleon Hill, even accusing him of being a scam artist in some cases. The basic premise is that he really longed to understand why some folks are rich and others seem to struggle with money. He interviewed, as the story goes, many of the great business minds of his era, including Andrew Carnegie. But some say he never really did all that and actually made up some of the parts of the book. Either way, the book caught on and helped launch the entire self-help category of books. Many famous self-help authors can thank Napoleon Hill for his groundbreaking book, where the majority of the tips really do make a ton of sense. There were books before this. I want to call one out that I happened to find called Success Word. It is really old, like late 1800s. It's very difficult to unpack and archaic. Most of the themes there were about hard work for a young man, of course, because really didn't talk about women in that context at that time in history. So it wasn't the first. Think and Grow Rich was definitely not the first book about self-help, really, or what to do to achieve something. It really resonated, though. And of course, coming out of the Great Depression here, 1937, you can probably see why it took a hold and took off. So a lot of the tips, though, do make sense. Here are really my top 5 favorite tips from the book that I'm going to cover today in our podcast. So first of all, harnessing desire. That actually, there's a lot to unpack in that one. And that particular set covers a lot of different things, or particular item covers a lot of things in the book. Second, leveraging autosuggestion. And I don't know that anybody uses the term autosuggestion anymore. Technically, that's not really that complicated. It's really just using your subconscious. Some people would call it, positive affirmations and think that's goofy. Autosuggestion is not the greatest word for it either, but really it's kind of this positive mindset. The third thing is to create a mastermind. Now, there's actually a lot of use of this word in industry these days, and certainly over the last 10, 15, 20 years. Mastermind has really kind of taken a hold. And this is the idea of getting a group of people together to share thoughts, network, work together, and so on and so forth. In some ways, some websites are taking that to a new level or a different kind of level. If you think about LinkedIn, if you're really active on LinkedIn and you have a group of people that you work with all the time or talk to all the time on LinkedIn, those kinds of things, that is a mastermind. In person or online, that would work. Number 4, developing persistence. And I think you can say this just about anything. I think it's interesting that it's in Think and Grow Rich to say, hey, you got to have persistence. And he's got some stories of persistence in there. Of course, you have to be persistent. Success is not overnight. It's the old adage, the band was an overnight success after 5 years of work. And suddenly they're a success overnight. It's really the persistence that pays off. Of course, trick with persistence is, do you really know if you're following the right path? But either way, that's as a personal observation. And finally, the last one, embracing the power of decision. This is something that I think many people really need to really, really listen to. Please listen to the power of decision. I run into folks all the time that do not lead. They don't take control of their own lives. They don't decide upon anything. And therefore, they don't do anything. Decisioning is really the first step in achieving anything, that decision to do something. So what you probably have heard and what I'm going to go into in detail next, you probably are going to recognize. Why is that? Because so many of the self-help books out there have their roots in this work or have roots in similar work and have all led to the same conclusions. There are variations on the themes with scientific research, stories, evidence. You're going to hear those things. There are books out there all over the place. A lot of times they're talking about the same things, just with different terms and with different examples. So it's probably going to feel familiar to many, many of you. And I think that's great because this book started it all. And so if you check this book out, to get past the language, this book will give you the reason as to where you're going to hear and why you hear all the self-help terms and terminology outside of this. So let's jump in. Hey, I want to switch topics for a quick second here. And I want you to listen to the sound of my voice and pay close attention to how it sounds, the tone, the pitch, those kinds of things as I'm speaking to you right now. So listen to my voice, see what you think. And there. Do you got it? Do you remember how that sounds? Okay. Now, listen to this. Okay. How about now? Listen again to the sound of my voice. Can you tell a difference? I kind of hope not, because I'm using something called resound.fm. It is my absolute favorite helper tool for creating podcasts. And really for any kind of audio that I record. I use Resound FM to make it better, make it smoother. And so the reason I had you listen to this, the first part and this second part separately, potentially, second part, if you can tell where that break was, the first part, I was using my relatively fancy, not extremely expensive, but very nice microphone hooked up to my computer. And I made that audio with the microphone. The second part here, which I'm speaking to you with right now, I'm using my earbuds and my smartphone. It's absolutely amazing. I took the two pieces of audio, put them together, and ran them through Resound, especially the magic enhance button, and it smooths out the audio for me, making it almost seamless and not very different from the two different recording devices. Frankly, I love the freedom of recording podcasts using my earbuds. And resound.fm makes it super, super easy. It's fantastic. It will also take care of all your oohs and ahs and other extra sounds that you don't want in your audio. And you can use it for audiobooks, or like I said, podcasts. You can optimize your audio for YouTube videos and really just about anything that a creator would want to use for audio to make that work better and make it sound better, make it sound much more professional, made by professionals or a professional podcast itself, and using artificial intelligence to make it work really, really well is great. So check it out at selfpubempire.com/resound. That's selfpubempire.com/resound. Check out what I think about it there on that page and click the link and try it for yourself. See for yourself. Thanks so much. We'll switch topics again here. All right. So number 1, harness desire. What does that really mean? There's a lot here underneath the harness desire category of top tips. Number 1 tip. And it's the number 1 tip for a couple of reasons. There was a lot of things that Napoleon Hill put around this chapter of desire that were really all related to one another. But desire is the want to go and do this. Do you want to write a book or do you not? You just want to reap the benefits of writing a book? Well, that's great. But I mean, that's not going to get you there to write the book. It won't write itself. Instead, in our authoring or book example, you really need to have the desire to go and do something. And so this is what's important because it's a thought. A desire is actually a thought. And so Napoleon Hill states that thoughts are things. I've used that statement before, and I really do like it. Thoughts really are things. They're not non-existent entities that something that we just talk about in an abstract format. They really are actually things. A thought has to exist in your mind. And even at the time in 1937, when Napoleon Hill wrote that, there was a certain amount of knowledge about the fact that somehow, some way, a thought in your mind exists as part of this neural pathways of your head and your brain. And so thoughts really are things. They're a connection of patterns that you have in your brain, and they really are a thing. The most important part about that is that nothing has ever really been achieved that was not first imagined by someone. And I really want you to think about that. So the book example I keep going back to because I'm an author myself. If you're thinking about authoring a book, you have to imagine what that book is going to look like. Starting off with a blank page, very difficult. Not knowing where you're going, very difficult. That desire might be there, but the imagination and the thought of what that looks like, you have to imagine it first. And then it will start to take form because that thought actually is a thing and it can start to use the word manifest. I think a lot of people use the word manifest a little too much, but manifest itself on paper. So nothing was ever achieved without first really being imagined by someone. For example, another example, the Romans imagined the aqueducts bringing fresh water into Rome and other cities, of course. Then they actually worked on it with a burning desire to create those engineering marvels of their day. You can pursue your desire and start engineering your own marvel by doing that. But the aqueducts didn't just come from nowhere. Someone thought about it and imagined what would it be like to actually have fresh water being brought from up there in the hills down into the city so that we can have our Roman baths and things like that. And that's really advanced technology for the time to say that they had basically running water or fresh water being brought in the city. They had to imagine it. They had to think about what would this look like? What would your book look like, for example, in this case, if we're talking about the authoring example? What does that look like? Pursuing the desire means creating a clear vision of what you want and repeatedly thinking about that. We're going to talk about that in a little bit too, about that repetition part, but repeatedly think about what that is that you want and what it looks like. You can use that to carry you forward, and especially then when going good stuff. It's like I'm halfway through writing my book, and you know what? I just don't feel like it anymore. I've said this before as well, that motivation is not as powerful as self-discipline. It never will be. Motivation is very emotional based, and self-discipline is very much not. It's a habit, which I'm going to talk about too. But desire can turn into motivation, which can turn into self-discipline to achieve that which you've imagined. Those things all do fit together. That desire will carry you forward. It's burning desire. And taking it a step further, Napoleon Hill talks about faith. Faith is a thought that is intensified as a truth in a person's subconscious mind. So in your subconscious mind, If you have a desire, you develop that into faith in your mind, in your truth. That book, in this example, already exists. It exists as a thought, and you just need to put it on paper and manifest it. So desire is very important. That's the first tip. Number one, harness your desire. Have that desire, think about what you want, and imagine achieving it. And that will go a long ways toward getting you moving forward. Number two, leverage autosuggestion. So autosuggestion is a word that Napoleon Hill made up. So the idea there was to come up with something that was descriptive, but not really in existence. So he came up with the word autosuggestion. It's really the way to program the mind. This is positive affirmations. People talk about positive affirmations quite a bit these days, and it's a way to program your mind, but it doesn't have to be positive affirmation. It has to be continuous, repeated thoughts. And what does that mean? It's a way to program the human mind. The human mind is programmed through repetition. That is also called creating a habit. So if I repeat myself and I do something over and over again, like brush my teeth, I am creating a pattern and setting that pattern up to create a habit. And I've told myself the right thing to do is to brush my teeth every day. And so I do it, and I don't have to think about it. I actually feel weird if I don't. And maybe you're all the same way as I am. You might feel a little weird if you haven't brushed your teeth and say, I know I forgot something. I feel really weird about that. So in your subconscious mind is telling you, hey, you forgot to go brush your teeth. It's going to make you do it. The same thing applies here. So we'll go back to the book example. It's the idea of saying, I'm going to positively tell myself repeatedly that I'm going to write this book and it's going to look like this thing. And you're starting to program your subconscious mind, or more importantly, where I'm talking about motivation is not as strong as self-discipline, and self-discipline can come from habits, and you can create habits by programming your mind repeatedly with, as Napoleon Hill would say, autosuggestion. You're going to create a habit to say, I'm going to sit down and write X amount of words per day. And you do that every day. And you're going to feel weird if you don't do it. And so all of a sudden it becomes a habit. It actually doesn't take that long. There are books out there about this. 21 days is one of the numbers that I've heard, is how long it takes to actually create a habit or reinforce a habit in your mind to make that habit strong and actually create it for you. And so that you can continuously do that, like brush your teeth or go to the gym or whatever it is. In this case, write your book, put down some words, do some thoughts, those kinds of things. And so you're programming your subconscious mind this way to create that habit. So if you can truly make your subconscious mind believe something, you can have it help you act. You will be guided by your mind without even actually feeling it. So that self-discipline part becomes way, way easier. A habit is so much easier than self-discipline, but you can't really create a habit without focusing on that self-discipline. And so another example of this where you're actually having your mind tell you something is slightly different. I believe that many people, I shouldn't say that, I know that many sources say that the reticulating activation system is another component of this. And the example would be, let's say you decide to buy a car, you find out what that car is, you buy it, you like it. Suddenly you begin to notice more and more of them on the road. Well, technically they're always there, but something in your mind was activated because you bought one and it's something you really like. And so you'll start to see that you're actually noticing it more, noticing those types of cars more and more and more because your reticulating activation system has been turned on by that particular car. And so then you see more and more of those. This is all related. And so it's another way to program your mind. It's another programming thing that's happening in your mind. And so you can actually use your imagination as well to have this work in your favor. And it can play an important role by creating that vision, going back to desire, of what you want, and then affirming that you are going to go and get it. And more detailed, the better, and more emotional, the better as well. So Napoleon Hill doesn't talk about this quite so much. This is later research that I've done, but memories get created, and any kind of thing programmed in your mind gets created more strongly if there's an emotion attached to it. So you have a very positive feeling or a very strong feeling of some kind about something that's repeatedly put into your mind or that you're putting in there yourself, then you're going to have it programmed in your head a lot faster. So emotion will help you do that, and positively as well. So going back to the car example, you like the car. You have a positive emotion. You think about the car, suddenly you see the car all over the place. That kind of car. Everybody's got this kind of car. All of a sudden, I didn't notice that. They're all over. So those are examples of all those kind of interrelated things that Napoleon called autosuggestion, which I think is fabulously interesting. Number 3, create a mastermind. Mastermind is an interesting word because it's been used a lot. I think it's been used a lot within the last, say, 10, 15 years or so. I've heard it in many, many places, in many, many self-help books, that mastermind, and even some folks actually sell a mastermind kind of class where a bunch of people get together. And that really is all it's really about, is a group of people getting together that have similar goals or interests to talk, network, to achieve something. And so this is actually a little more focused than just saying, hey, these are all my friends that I hang out with. So this is really truly choosing your friends themselves. Who do you hang out with? Are they like-minded? Maybe if you want to be an author, maybe if you started hanging out with more authors or people that are successful as authors, you're going to get some benefits from that. Do you hang out with like-minded creators, or do you hang out with those who do not believe in you, or they feel that success is not very achievable? Conversely, I don't want to be negative, but you really have to think about your friends and who is supportive of you and who is not. And the mastermind kind of takes that more seriously, as far as this is a group of people that truly are getting together to truly talk about achievement of something. There's examples of this in history. There are entrepreneur groups for folks that do that. There are author groups. There are things that people get together and create this mastermind. And what do you get from it? Certainly, there's a little bit of Napoleon Hill saying that a mastermind is uplifting in many ways because your subconsciouses are all working positively together. There's kind of that feeling. But of course, there's the practical aspects too. Can you help each other? Can you have better ideas? Can you network? Someone has a resource that can help you. Those kinds of things. That's all part of that mastermind idea or tip that really comes from that Napoleon Hill era of thought. And belief is powerful. So going back to the who are your friends question, belief is very powerful, and even more so when amplified by a group. You can get practical help, like I said before, and ideas and things like that. So the mastermind is really important for a person to be able to achieve things more quickly. So that's tip number 3. And Napoleon Hill talks about the mastermind a lot and uses it an awful lot. So, and he had a whole bunch of examples in the book, which I think you'd find interesting if you read the whole text. So number 4, another good one here, developing persistence. Burning desire is not real, of course, if you give up. If you don't have any persistence, I have a burning desire to create this book, but I gave up on it. Well, that's not, obviously you didn't really have this much desire as you might have thought if you just gave up on it. And certainly persistence, it allows you to fight off things that may be in your way. You may end up being ridiculed. People might not believe in you. You may have friends that don't believe in you, or they don't think that what you're doing is a good idea to, say, write a book, or they can't believe that you're going to waste your time, quote unquote, waste your time on something that may never pan out. I would say if that's the case, you might want to find some better friends, but hey, that's just me. But even more importantly, this is sometimes hard to say if you have a significant other or a spouse that does not support you in your vision to achieve, assuming it's not a completely crazy idea. I think writing a book is completely not a crazy idea. And I'm proof that you can do that, even if you don't have a lot of time in your hands, such as that writing a book. You really only have 2 choices. If your significant other is really against you, you can honestly then go the opposite of persistence and give up or give up. And I think you know what I mean by giving up your desire versus giving up on your significant other. I don't think that's a great choice. So you have to be very smart about that. Persistence helps you, though. Ignoring that kind of negative thinking there that we just kind of dipped into. Developing persistence helps with the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, as one would say. Shakespeare, for example, would say that. Persistence helps you push through, and you're going to run into issues. You're going to have challenges. Hopefully, these challenges aren't things in the publishing platforms or things like that, because I've got lots and lots of tips for you to check out that'll help you avoid some of the pitfalls. And you don't have to have as much persistence, because you're not going to run into many problems, because I'm here to help you, the author, creator, develop it as whatever you want. So develop your persistence. Number 5. Let's move to the last one. Embrace the power of decision. I'd said this before. It is shocking to me how many folks do not make decisions. They will float down the stream. They're not a live fish. They won't swim up the stream. They will float down the stream. And that's unfortunate. They don't make a decision for themselves, and then they complain about their lot in life. The trend of folks that have made great wealth really are to make decisions decisively. And it's funny, those two words are actually related, of course, the same root word, decision and decisive. They will think, they'll decide, and then they'll act. And that cycle is generally short for the successful folks. And the reason is that allows them to learn from a mistake if they made a wrong decision, and then get through their setbacks quickly, pivot, and move on to another decision much closer to achieving success. And that is important, because this life, there is no specific way to achieve anything. It's an open book, literally, that you can do what you want with. Zig Ziglar said it best when he said, and I would recommend anybody check out Zig Ziglar's audio books, any kind of thing that Zig Ziglar wrote, or presentations or video or whatever it is you can find. Very good stuff. Similar to Think and Grow Rich, a lot of things there. Lots of stories. Favorite one was a comment about, how do I know when to drive downtown? I don't know when all the lights are going to turn green. Well, you can't really do that. You have to start driving to downtown, and then you might have to stop at some red lights, and then you'll get some green lights, and eventually you'll make your way downtown because you've started. If you just wait until all the lights turn green, you'll never get there. So you have to make a decision, and you have to move forward. And that allows you to pivot, change your direction. This is a road construction's in your way, that kind of a thing. Make a decision, change your mind, move forward, and embrace that power of decision. Take that decisive action. It will feed positively into your persistence. It'll feed positively into your subconscious with autosuggestion, and it'll feed positively into harnessing your desire. So that actually does kind of wrap up those 5 tips all put together as well. Hey, I want to tell you about something. Change the topic. I don't know about you, but I like things for free. And I put together a free guide to getting started on Kindle Direct Publishing. This guide is many pages of packed material for free for you to get started and writing your own book and using Kindle Direct Publishing to do it. There's a lot of tips and tricks that I jammed into this document. It's a free ebook, and you can find it on the website, selfpubempire.com/free. All you gotta do is put your email address in there, and we'll get you that free book as soon as we possibly can through the magic of the interwebs. And so I hope you enjoyed the free book. Please give it a try. I think you'll find out, judge for yourself, that it's very useful information. I've been publishing books in Kindle Direct Publishing for many years now, and I think this will help you, because I ran all kinds of pitfalls, and maybe I can help you avoid a few, and you can get your book out, your masterpiece, out to the public, out to your fans, and have something there that will be out on Amazon for the ages. And remember, with Kindle Direct Publishing, it's all print on demand. So there's absolutely no inventory needed, and Amazon will basically sell it for you. So go ahead, get out there, selfpubempire.com/free, and check it out. It's the first entry there for the free getting started with Kindle Direct Publishing. I hope you enjoy it. So to recap real quick here, as we've gotten through our top 5. Number 1, harness to your desire. Number 2, leverage your auto-suggestion. That's that positive thinking, positive affirmation part. 3, create a mastermind. Choose your friends wisely. Find groups of people that will help you and amplify what it is that you're trying to do. 4, develop persistence. Motivation is not as great as self-discipline. And developing your persistence is very good for getting you into your self-discipline. 5, embrace the power of decision. Make decisions. Take that action. It will only generate a positive feedback loop for you to move forward. So those are my top 5. What you can see from this list of tips is that the theme is that your mind is your greatest resource. Hey, what a surprise. The title of the book itself says Think and Grow Rich. And so no surprise there. Your mind is your greatest resource. So that really is the meta messaging here that we're talking about. Napoleon Hill didn't know what meta messaging would be, never had that word created, but that is what's happening here. Your mind is your greatest resource. Your thoughts dictate your success. And even more powerful, the idea that believing, imagining, and visualizing what you want yields a powerful force that drives you towards those ends. Dr. Hill's discussion in the book is around belief and faith, visualization of your dreams to achieve what you want. There's a lot of that in there and a lot of examples that he talks about. Doesn't matter if we feel like he was, a scam artist or not. These are powerful messages and have been proven by science as time has gone on. He also outlines that realistic dreams or goals are powerful tools that can help you persevere as well and get that persistence and not to give up. So those are my top 5 tips for Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast, and this helps you get a little bit motivated to write and get yourself published. It can be a challenge, but the words of wisdom in Think and Grow Rich really are timeless. They actually do make a lot of sense. And I think that you should definitely read the book if possible. If you don't, check out my summary. I think you'll enjoy that as well. It is on audio as well, so you can hear me speak that through. In the future, I'm going to talk about audiobooks and how I record them also, just as a little teaser. But I hope this helps you move yourself from post to profit. See you next time, my friend. Hey, congratulations. You just listened to another episode of the Self-Pub Empire podcast. I really hope you found something inspiring, useful, and actionable for your own entrepreneurial and business aspirations. Let's keep connecting as solopreneurs, authors, and online creators of all kinds. For more information, how-tos, great tools, and show notes for the show, head over to selfpubempire.com/podcast. Until next time, let's continue moving from posts to profit.